A business and get a lot of packages or have a house with brick, this video is for you. We're going to be installing a doorbell camera on this small business. As you can see, it's brick. I've been getting a lot of requests to make a video like this. If there's not existing doorbell wire, how do you get power to your doorbell without buying one of those doorbells with batteries and have to worry about all that? So the cool thing about these doorbells is we're going to run a power for it and power wire for it, and so I'm going to show you how that's done and how you can do it on the brick. So the first thing I like to do is think, okay, what view do I want to see? Obviously this is the door, so we can put it, this is the area that we want to see, so we can either put it on this side or on this side of the door. But the main thing is we want to see this general area, so if packages come or if clients come or people, then we'll see who's coming. The second thing I always like to do is check, okay, how do I power this doorbell? So these doorbells are low voltage, and so you got to look for a power source, an outlet. And so typically I like to look, there's nothing on this side, so I'm looking over on this other side to see if there's a doorbell, or sorry, an outlet on this side. And it looks like we've got two options here. So we can use one of those outlets to power our doorbell. Unfortunately, this is a bottom unit. There's nothing above, so we can't run our wire up or we can't run it down. So it looks like these two outlets are going to be our best bet. So now that we found power, I'm going to show you how to run the wire to it. And so we're going to go with this outlet here. I think this one's going to be easier to run to. And the goal is to always make sure that you're showing as minimal wire as possible. And we could run it to this one, but we would have to pop this baseboard off, run the wire behind it, and then plug it in that way. We could do that. I personally hate caulking and repainting and stuff. So we're going to use this one, and what we're going to do is just drill straight into the wall and then run our wire down, and then it'll plug in. So we're going to go back outside and we're going to start drilling that hole in the brick and run that wire. Okay, so next step is we got to measure. Since we're going to be drilling through the wall, got to make sure that when we're outside drilling in that we don't pop out on either side and that we're actually going through the wall, so then when we run our wire down, no wire's exposed. So I'm going to measure from the window over, and I always like to go from the actual window because if you go from this, it changes on the outside. So made that mistake before. So, and it doesn't need to be perfect, but it just needs to be pretty close. So it's about 30.5. Okay. And then let me get my pencil out. So I'm going to do the same thing. And again, we're going to go from the edge of the window over. So about like that. 30.5. And then walls are about 3.5. So this was built with 2x4s. And so that wall's gonna be about 3.5 wide, at least where the wood is. So just cut that in half. And that's should have us drilling straight through the middle of the wood. Okay. So next step, we're gonna get our drill. We're gonna drill straight through. I feel like that's a good height of the doorbell, just kind of whatever's most natural. We could maybe go down a little bit lower, but I think that's a pretty good height right there. So we're gonna drill through. We're gonna start off by using a masonry bit, and then as soon as we get through the brick, then we're gonna switch it out to a wood bit, and then just keep popping through until we get over far enough to drop that wire down to the outlet. Again, I always like to just double check everything, make sure everything looks right, just kind of eyeballing it. So my mark's right there, opening the door, just to look and see, okay, like we've got, you know, 4 or 5 inches before we hit the wall, coming out here, measuring over 4 or 5 inches. So I'm fairly confident that's gonna be good. We'll be able to buzz right through and stay in the wall. So Got my masonry bit. Super important that you get one of these. If you try and use a wood bit, you're gonna burn through those bits, and those can be kind of pricey. So make sure you grab a masonry bit, and then I'm gonna purposely angle kind of down as I drill, so that when I'm pushing the wire through, it's gonna be easier for it to fall down. So, and then I always like to start in the mortar, just a little bit easier to drill there than if I was to go square on with the brick. So I'm gonna start right there. This can be kind of loud, can be kind of intimidating. Obviously, drilling in brick, for some people, that can be a little intimidating, but as long as you measure, and you should be good to go. So here we go. All right, so I got to bore out the brick a little bit bigger. I got this 3-foot wood drill bit, and it's a little bit bigger than my masonry. So I'm just gonna bore this out a little bit so then I can use my 3-foot. Okay, I just finished boring this out with the masonry bit. Now I got my 3-foot drill bit on. This is for wood. Just want to be careful that you got it good enough, because these things will dull really fast if it's not going into wood. And so got through, and we're gonna just slowly start going here. And I like to use this hand kind of just to help stabilize it. I'm not like squeezing it. Just like, since this is such a long bit, and then just kind of keep it tight to my body, because sometimes since it is such a long bit, it can like kick. So just kind of going. Okay, that's the first stud. And I gotta go through one more. Okay, so moment of truth, did we pop out? Okay, no drill bit, no drill bit. Look at that. That's why you measure twice, right? Isn't that the same? Okay, so now we pull this out. Okay, this is also might be a little hot too, so I'm just gonna let that hang out. And then we gotta pop inside, and I'll show you why here in a second. So we hit the first stud, the second stud, and then there's a third one that goes right here, and that's what the outlet is anchored to. And this is kind of an old school outlet. It's one of those old metal ones. So I'm gonna go down here in this bottom corner, and then I'm gonna go on an angle and drill through the stud. So then when I fish my wire through, I can get my magnet, catch it, and then pull my wire through. So let me get my drill bit. I'm gonna use this one. This is just like a 1/2-inch wood bit. You can probably get away with it a little bit smaller, but sometimes when you're going through this stud, it's nice to have a little bit bigger space. So I'm gonna go at the very corner. I'm just gonna get it started, and then I'm gonna angle this way, okay? And if you have to do a little bit of touch up, that's a lot better than, you know, doing a ton of touch up. So the outlet plate will cover 90% of this. So I'm not too worried about that. Okay. Perfect. So let's fish our wire through. Now we're gonna get our metal chain out, and these are pretty cool. This helps you fish your wire, so then you get this magnet, and then it attaches, so then it'll help us pull our wire through. So the idea is have our magnet on this side, and then we're gonna tape this chain onto the end of the glow rod, or you could use fish tape or whatever you got. Glow rod's probably easier. And then the glow rod's gonna come in, this chain's gonna dangle on the inside of the wall, and then we'll just catch it with the magnet and pull it through. I love these glow rods. Obviously glow in the dark, and just really, it's a nice way to fish your wire through walls. I use this a ton, especially on like short runs like this, or if I'm popping up into an attic or something. These glow rods just make it so easy because it's stiff, and so when you're pushing it through a wall or when you're pushing it up into an attic, it's just a lot easier. Sometimes fish tape, you know, different tools for different situations, but in this situation, this fish tape's gonna be, or sorry, this glow rod's gonna be the ticket. So just taping my metal chain to the end of it. Okay. Now, part of the reason, like I mentioned earlier, why we kind of drilled on an angle is we want to make sure that when we hit that far stud, that this pushes it down, and then it's easier to catch the chain. If this just goes, this chain might not go all the way to the far side, and so we want to, so if we were to just go straight, then it might not push itself down. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but if we did it right, we should hit that far stud, and then you might kind of have to force it a little bit. Let's see, doing that, I'm not sure if there we go. Okay, and then once you go in all the way, I like to shake it a little bit, because sometimes that chain will get stuck along the way. So give it a little shake like this. Oops, maybe not that far. Get a little shake, kind of twist it around. And by twisting, shaking, hopefully that gets it to where that chain drops. So then it's easier for us to catch. So, okay, let's give that a whirl. Okay, so we did this right. Kind of shake this around a little bit. Let's see what we got here. Don't tell me it's on the first try. Boom, baby. That never happens on the first try. It's because it's getting filmed, that's why. Normally it's like 30 minutes of shaking it around. Okay, so we got our chain through. Now we gotta grab our wire. Let me grab that really quick. Okay, got our wire and our transformer. This is what's gonna bring the voltage down to 16 to 24 volts. I'll attach all this in the link below so you guys can see what tools I'm using and what equipment. So this is 18.2 wire, and then this transformer brings it to 16 to 24 volts. I think that's one thing that I get asked probably the most is like, there'll be a light switch or an out or like something close by. And a lot of people will say, oh, Tanner, why don't you just tap into that light switch? You have to have these transformers to bring the voltage down, or else you're gonna burn your doorbell up. So these are 110 volts. Our doorbells require 16 to 24. So you have to have this transformer. Okay, so next thing that I do is tape this onto my chain. And you want to be generous with the tape. There's nothing more frustrating than spending time fishing your wire through, or fishing your chain through, just to have your wire fall through the wall. So, and one thing that I like to do is kind of twist the chain around. I feel like maybe it's just me, but I feel like it gives it a little bit more strength. So there's different tools that you can buy to help pull these wires through on the chain. Sometimes they're a little bit bigger and kind of clunkier. So, I don't know. If you guys know better tools out there, let me know. But this is what I like to do. And then just make sure that the tip is taped off well, because you want this to pull through as smooth as possible. So when you're going through the holes, back through the holes, if this tip isn't taped off smooth, then it's gonna catch, and then your wire's gonna fall on the wall, and then you're gonna have to redo everything. So for example, and I always like to get it started. So I'm gonna push this through the first stud, and just kind of get it started. And then I'm gonna go outside and pull that through, and then we'll mount our doorbell. So, this is one of the best feelings ever, is getting your wire to come out. There it is. Okay, first thing I always do is give it a little kink like this. I can't tell you how many times, again, made this mistake where I take the chain off and then the wire falls back into the wall. So if you want to cry, then make sure you don't kink it like that. So now I can let go and, you know, or take the chain off, and it's not going to fall back in to the wall. So let me pull this off. I'm going to tuck some of this slack back in there. Maybe want, I don't know, 6-7 inches. And then I like to just leave the box and pull everything out in front of me so it's easy to get everything. So I'm gonna pull everything out, put the trash back in the box, just keep things organized. Okay. And then you want to get your back plates. This doorbell comes with a couple different options. You could do like angled up or down, or like this one you could do side to side. On this one we just want it straight up. So we're gonna just use this back plate. And then you should have some anchors and screws. Yep. Okay. Okay, now we need to put in our anchors for the screws. Again, you want to make sure you have a masonry bit. I'll have the link for this down below. And then just make a little mark of where we're doing this. Okay. I want the hole like in the center. Actually, I'm gonna favor it up a little bit so then I can do the one anchor in the mortar and then the other one down. Actually, no, that's gonna look weird. We're gonna just go right there. Okay, so make your little mark. Make sure it's square. Okay, you can barely see my little marks. I'm just gonna exit out a little bit. Okay. Now, if you could see, it was kind of hard to get it started. So before I drill the second one, I'm just gonna make sure that my mark is still accurate. Okay, yeah, it's still pretty good. Okay, we're gonna hold that to the side. Next step, throw these little anchors in. This is gonna help it so when you put your screws that they stay in. Now sometimes when drilling in the brick, it can crumble a little bit. So a little secret, I don't know if I need it on this, let me see. I'll show you just for an example. Sometimes that can be kind of crumbly and you want these really tight. Sometimes I'll put a little bit of electrical tape on there just to help make sure that it's super, super snug. And then just tap it in. Okay, got the back plate, got the anchors in. We're gonna slide this on. This back plate says up, so make sure it's facing up. And then you just slowly screw this. I always like to do it by hand because you don't want to overdo it. And sometimes it's hard to tell with the drill. So I'm just going to slowly go and hand tighten it. Okay. Don't crank it quite yet. There's a little piece of tape there. Right. And then get the second one. Okay, before you go really tight, you just want to make sure that it's square. So that looks pretty good. Okay, sweet, that's solid, that's not going anywhere. Now, depending on the doorbell that you install, these steps might be a little bit different. So, sometimes the wires screw into the back plate, sometimes they screw into the doorbell itself. Again, I can't stress how important it is to get a doorbell that that's wired. Even if you take the time or hire somebody to run a wire, it's an investment that's well worth it. I can't tell you how many times like people call me and they're like, oh, I got this doorbell, but it's battery powered and I'm sick of changing the batteries, or it fell off line like right before we left, and I don't know, it's just one more thing to worry about. Is worrying about if the batteries in your doorbell have been charged. So to me, it's worth investing a little bit to get the wire ran, and then you don't have to worry about it. So I just made these little loops at the end of my wire, and we're gonna just twist that around and then push the slack in. So these doorbells are AC powered, so don't worry about the color. Hold on, let me use this bigger one. There's not like a positive or a negative or, you know, whatever. So just do one side on one on the other. And I always like to loop it clockwise, so when you tighten it, it tightens on itself. So I just kind of get it started, and then I use the screwdriver to kind of pinch it around like that. So then when I start screwing it down, it's nice and stuck. It's nice and snug. It's not going to come off. Okay. Same thing on this other side. So I use like my thumb or my finger, and then the screwdriver to just kind of push that around. Sometimes it's kind of stubborn. I don't know if you can see that or not, but boom. And you just twist that baby down. Okay, nice and snug. Okay, you want to leave yourself some slack too. So when we get on the inside, you want to make sure you're doing that. You never know when you have to pull these off to like scan it or to do something. So leave yourself some slack. And then I just like to push it in and slide it on down. Boom. How clean does that look? All right, let's go inside and we'll get finish putting power to it. So the inside now, I want to leave myself a little bit of slack. If I ever have to unplug this or whatever, you don't want to be fighting it. So my doorbell's mounted on the outside, and then we're gonna put this into power, and then we'll be good to go. So I like to strip my wire maybe like 1.5 inches. And just be careful that you don't nick the wires below. Okay, cut the little string. And then we're gonna strip this, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch or something. And we're gonna make the little loops again. Okay. So like what I was saying out there, these are AC powered. So you just do one on one side, one on the other. Now, where we're working today, they're painting, they're remodeling, as you can see. So there's not a plate right here. Screw is a little stiff for some reason. Okay. But we'll get this all tidied up. So we're just gonna wrap it around, same thing. You wanna go clockwise, and you just pinch the loop. What is this? Make sure it's on there nice and tight. Okay. Same thing. Okay. Pinch it tight. So they are kind of big, but I like that it screws in, so you don't have to worry about kids or somebody unplugging and losing power to your doorbell. And then this little green light lets you know that it's powered up. So boom, we got the little light that came on.
Please follow the in-app instructions.
So that's how you do it. Installing a doorbell camera on brick. It's a little bit of a different wire run. We ran this one through the wall, but all the principles are pretty much the same. So follow me for more videos. If you have a different situation that you want to see how it's done, let me know. I'd love to respond to different comments. And so looking forward to those comments, and I'll make some more videos for you. Thanks.